then you'd probably die, right? What am I trying to say here? I think we've got to acknowledge that nobody has it figured out. Nobody's not afraid. And if they aren't, they're delusional. Or if they truly believe they have no fear, they're delusional. But I'm kind of tired of this like non-stop, call it hero worship or whatever you want to call it, of people who, because they're successful, they can turn around and say, I've got it all figured out. Here's the mindset. Here's the solution. Well, if we spend all of our time looking at how other people are quote unquote better than us, and we never acknowledge their weaknesses, we never get to see their weaknesses, we're setting ourselves up to not be happy with how we deal with problems. And everybody deals with problems a little bit differently. But here's the point. Everyone is afraid of something. And that's okay. If you're not afraid, then you're not actually getting outside your comfort zone. If you are completely content with how you are doing things, that's a sign that you're not actually growing. You're not pushing yourself. You know, there's a great quote in the book, The Alchemist. Says something along the lines of, there's only one thing that makes something impossible. And it's not fear itself, but it's the fear of failure. It's the fear of not accomplishing our goal. And it really makes you think when you look at people who are achieving great things, doing things we think that we should be doing, and they don't seem to have any emotional pain or they don't have fear. It's not that they don't have it, it's that they understand what fear really is. The fear of failure. It's what's really, I would say, the first thing that most people need to get past or need to understand before they're even ready to take the next step. Maybe they're hitting a wall, a barrier, an emotional pain point, and they think they can't they personally can't do what someone else has done. It's probably this fear of failure that is ingrained into our system. And it's not a bad thing necessarily, by the way. If you weren't afraid failure when it came to making a big jump between two, chasms, or one chasm, two cliffs on one chasm, then you'd probably die, right? So being afraid to jump over a chasm, good thing to have, right? Good inner human instinct to be afraid to jump. However, that starts to get in the way when we talk about things that aren't necessarily a physical threat, but are more of an emotional threat. When we're looking at fear, when we're paralyzed by fear, it causes us to do the one thing that causes everyone to fail no matter what, and that's to not take action. We're all guilty of this. There's no one that's perfect when it comes to getting through fear, getting over that fear of failure, but there is a way to continually improve our ability to react to fear. There's a great book called The Confidence Gap that has a whole section on fear, and it makes the point that fear is a lot like a wild horse. When it comes into our view, often if we don't understand it, if we're not somebody who knows how to deal with horses, it can be a little scary to see a crazy horse barreling at us, right? Think of the people that maybe you've seen, the Horse Whisperer or whatever. They have the innate ability, they know how to talk to horses, right? And what is it about that person? Were they born with the ability to deal with horses, to walk up and soothe and calm a horse and know the body posture and all that? No, right? That'd be ridiculous. They practiced, they learned, they took in information about the horse or horses in general, how they react. They practice, right? So we can do the same thing with fear. We have to view it as something that we personally have to get to know. We have to know our own, how we interact with fear. We have to know how we react to fear. And just like that person who really understands horses, we have to take the time to actually practice dealing with our fears. And it can be simple things like, what is it in your daily routine that you avoid doing because either it's too hard or it's too easy, right? Reading daily, writing daily, whatever it is we've set up a goal to do and we're not doing, those simple little things that we're not doing, we're often not doing them because we're afraid we're going to fail down the road in our routine. If our goal is to read 20 pages a day of material and we make it 3 days and we skip the 4th day, we've failed, right? Our minds interpret our goals as failure points, and often that's what's keeping us from success. So a few practical things you can do. One, view the daily routine of things that you set up to do not as something that is make it or break it. It's not, if I don't do this, I'm a failure. It's, I'm doing this as best I can to improve myself. You know, do your best to stick with it, but if you mess up, if you miss a day, how's it going? Thanks. Yeah. I'm on a bike trail. If you miss a day in your routine, you have to practice how you react to it. If you set a goal and you miss it, do an analysis of what steps you took or didn't take. A lot of times we fail at goals, not because we didn't try or take the steps. It's because we didn't even start, right? We didn't even start the diet. We didn't even start the routine. And that's what we're afraid of, right? That's what deep inside of us we look at and we say, well, I'm never even going to start. Well, you can't analyze something if you don't start it, right? So start analyzing what you or how you react when you mess up. Reframe how it is that you look at your failures, right? Or how you perceive failures. And eventually you're going to start building a better relationship with your fear. When you start feeling that kind of inner angst about something, which never goes away, by the way. The most successful people out there, it's not like they cured fear and they're not afraid and they've got it all figured out. They just practice failure more than most people, and they're not afraid of that failure. They just get back up and start again. So here's the deal. It's not so much that it's all about improvement, right? It's not all about getting better at taking specific steps. A lot of times it's actually about learning more about how we interact with our own failures. So let me know in the comments, what do you think? What is it that, how do you react with fear? How do you interact with fear? What is it that your mind does when you're faced with failure? Let me know in the comments. Maybe we'll do a follow-up video, talk a bit more about it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on what is keeping you from success. I'm running out of breath. I thought I had a thought there, but I continued to trail off into nonsense.